Call to order. Joanne, may I have a roll call, please?
Douglas Beebe.
Here.
Kathy Buckley.
Here.
Michael Hagedorn. Ed Marin.
Here.
Kipser Michaud. Crystal Palmer. Nicole Pupor. Here. Mark Sand. Pauline Stone. Here.
May it be resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. We have set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If you would like to make a comment to the Board of Education at this time, I please ask that you approach the board and state your name. Seeing that we have no takers, we'll move forward to presentations. Our first presentation, or our presentation this evening, is our 2020-2021 budget. Our presenters are Daniel Mannix and Jennifer Parliament.
Okay. So Jen and I have been working on the budget for quite a while. Today, for example, we went through every line in this 44-page document and looked at the last couple of years of expenditures. But we also are working hard to try to understand where are we financially with the New York State Education Department. So we might as well start with the bad news first, okay? You can't see that this is in the board portal. Do we have, we have copies. So this document right here is in the board, portal. You know what, Joanne, why don't we just do this? Can we just take a minute? Copies of these. So Jen, well, she's going to have copies of those. Can I just borrow yours for a second? Thanks. Sorry about that. Forgot how small those numbers look up on the screen. So this run, it looks like that to us, you know, when we receive it in the email as well. And you're going to have a copy of this in a second that's been blown up. But can we just scroll up just a little bit? Okay, so the big thing here is Governor Cuomo has changed the way he is showcasing his expenditures, I'm going to call it, to school districts. So for years, for a number of years, you've had a whole run of lines like this that have different amounts for all these different things: BOCES, high tax aid, special services, software, library techs, all kinds of different items here. Every school knew what they were going to receive there. And there's always been a lot of talk lately, since for the last 10 or 12 years, over foundation aid and how the formula for foundation aid isn't running. Foundation aid is built basically on a dollar amount per student that you have in your building, maybe some other impacts on those students. But it's basically, a dollar amount that would track a student. So back in the day, before I arrived, superintendents would know just about, even in say January or October, how much aid they would have coming in the following year if they lost kids or gained kids. All that stopped. School districts were put on in two areas: safe, harmless, or underfunded. We are one of 3 districts that have been underfunded. Some districts, local districts, are $2 million overfunded, and the state says don't touch those districts. But they also don't, they haven't been filling the void in our foundation aid. So last year, when you total up this $13 million with the other codes, it amounts to $16,610,000. And this year, what Governor Cuomo is doing to look on this, on the same line, is he's putting all those lines together, and he is giving us this year 16,652,203, which is an increase I'll show you one more time so maybe you can track on your document. Right here on the first, what's in Beekmantown here, up and down, that's last year, that's this year. Right in the middle, there's 16,610,000. And then right here, the new way the governor's proposing to showcase his increases in school districts. And if you take this number and you subtract this from this, that's our increase. So that's $41,000 in new monies this year. So if you add a couple other lines in, if you take a look at, we have a little bit more in transportation aid. That increases because we're being reimbursed for mileage on our buses and whatnot. There's a formula for that. But really, the true increase, the way we look at it, the true increase this year from the governor right now for us on his document is $41,000. Putting that into perspective for you, I was over at BOCES this morning listening to Mr. Bell, who got to start right here at the Beekmantown Central School District, and listening to Dr. Davey. And they were telling me about COSER that we subscribe to, that everybody needs to subscribe to. And the increased cost in the COSER for like 3 or 4 people was $31,000. So something we don't even control, and this is just an example, this isn't a complaint on anything, this is just an example. On an outside service, that increase is $31,000. Our total increase for the district, everything we do right now is $41,000. So that's what Jen and I have been wrestling with. So Jen, can you find the good news? It'll give you a hard job now, but that's the bad news. Can you find the good news?
Can I ask a quick question, Dan?
Sure.
That 40,000 increase, does that match up with the percent student increase over the last year?
No, so that's a really good question.
Because otherwise, you might see more if it were based on student increase.
Yeah, so we're the only school district in the county that's gaining students. We're one of the few school districts in the state that's gaining students. And if you look over, and I'm not trying to, if you look over some of these other school districts, here is the number was 20 million. This is Peru. This is Peru. $20 million. Here, $21 million. 20,500,000. 21 million. They haven't gained kids; they've lost kids. So that's a $500,000 increase. So there's no correlation between losing kids, gaining money, gaining kids, no money.
Out of these 6 schools, we gain $40,000. Peru gains $500,000. Northern Adirondack $500,000.
Yeah.
So what is the rhyme and reason behind that?
There's a formula where you actually, it's a tier system. Okay.
Oh.
There's tier A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. And there's a formula for each tier, and you're supposed to be able to fall within whatever the highest tier is what you get. So this is according to the government. Well, we do fall in tier E with a dollar amount there. But because of they're incorporating BOCES aid in that figure now.
Oh yeah,
which is an expense-based aid. So we're not losing, but they're incorporating the BOCES aid in there. And because we went in this current year, 1920, we're getting aid on the project for the BOCES capital project because we paid it. So we're getting aid on it, which actually hurt us if they use this formula.
If they use that formula.
That's the it.
So I went to the class that I talked to our legislators. They were all mentioning Beekmantown as an example right out of the gate without even speaking. So they were aware of the damage to Beekmantown. Betty Little's office, Billy Jones' office, and the New York State Council School Superintendent Bob Lowry, who's like a financial guru in the state. He's right out of the gate was like, you take a look at this. Look at Beekmantown. Because we go from being underfunded, giving us $41,000 more, we're underfunded by over $500,000, and we haven't. And they give us $41,000 more, and now they call us funded. And it's just voodoo math right now. But here's an example. So Jen was talking about the BOCES. There's 4 school districts that actually paid their share of the BOCES projects. At the time, and one of those schools was Northeast Clinton. So if you take a look at Northeast Clinton, their increase, they're in the same boat, maybe even worse. So they're at 0.48 here. So those 4 school districts that paid, we definitely believe it looks like when we track it, that's a big impact. This BOCES aid has had a negative impact when it should have had a positive impact. So one of the things we're talking about is, obviously, they're changing the rules of the game. We made really strong economic decisions based on the rules of the game, and now they're changing the rules of the game. And not only we're not going to gain what we knew we were going to gain under the rules, right now there's a chance it's going to hurt us.
Right.
If everything stays right now, the very well could hurt us.
So that's what the governor has proposed in this budget, in this document here. So that's what we're going on, is what we have here. Now, we could, there's other options out there that show we could get over $1 million. But with what this governor's proposal says is we've got 41,000. So we're working off what we have today, which is $41,000. So if they do not do the expense-based aids, if they do not roll that all into foundation aid and they keep everything separate, it'll look different. But right now, this is what he's going with. So, yeah.
If I look at this chart under Beekmantown, towards a third from the bottom, it's the change from 2021 year minus 1920. This looks like a net total of almost negative $2 million. Is that what I'm saying?
That's with the building aid. The building aid is wrong on this form because it was taken, the numbers were taken as of November 15th. Okay. We actually submitted our EPC and we got early aid on the $18 million project in December. So that number should, the capital aid, the $595,000, should be $2.1 million.
Okay, so then we're not going to be negative at the net at the bottom.
It won't be negative 1.9, but the difference in bill, if you go change the very last 2 numbers, so
yes.
195
yep.
and then 1.04, that's our actual increase without including the building aid.
All right, so
let's just talk about negative. Let's move right into the next slide, okay? And then come back to this if you want.
Sure.
So this right here, you've seen this slide before. So it's the slide from last month. In this column right here is for 2021, okay? And we have made some significant changes to our assumptions on here to deal with this problem. And some of these decisions are made today. And so we really want you to be aware of these decisions, but a lot of thought has gone into these. And certainly as the game changes or continues to change, we will change. So we'll use terminologies like up to but not to exceed. And if we need to, if things really change and become unanticipated on our end, we may call an emergency meeting of the board, but not a special meeting of the board. Okay? So one of the big changes here is we've added revenue in from the previous year. So the previous year was about $1 million in total revenue, and it has all kinds of different monies coming in from all different areas, and we've increased that number to $1.5 million. So from $1 million to $1.5 million, and we were hesitant last year because we were just getting our feet on the ground for pre-K, and we were thinking about opening up maybe beginning discussions about opening up another pre-K and how the reimbursements work. And we're still a little nervous about it because it's new. Right, we're still a little nervous about it. It's always like, I think we're a little nervous about it. But we do know that right now that is revenue that's coming in for a lot of different reasons, but the increase is because of the services that our kids are receiving in-house, and we can bill county and the state for those services. So that's one of the reasons for a significant increase. But we're confident in that number, that audited number right now. The state aid, if you take a look at the third line down from the top in the middle column, that's where you usually start looking at that negative you're talking about, right? You see 22 million, and now we're at 20,800,000. That's a big change to deal with.
And the majority of that is from building aid. We lost the building aid, but we also lost the payment. We finished paying off.
Right.
Yeah, that was anticipated.
Yep.
We knew that. That was all part of the...
We matched it with our capital project.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That was the game we were playing. That was the game that we had looked at and studied well, and we're really working hard for the taxpayers. And we're still going to... I think we're still going to end up on the right side of all this. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of maneuvering. Another maneuver right now is we're going to go from a 1.3 million allocated to fund balance to 1.6 allocation to fund balance, and that all that does is soften up this bottom line. This bottom line right now is still $1 million in the red, right? As it stands today on February 11th, I guess it is. We're $1 million in the hole based on what we know right now. Jen, do you want to talk about the tax cap?
Yep. So the tax cap, we are at, from last time we presented, we were at 2.14. Now we're looking at 2.67. So that increased our tax levy amount to 21,842,863. And that is one of the key things we want to focus on today is the range of our levy limit.
So this has been adjusted with this new information
Yes.
already?
Correct, you got it.
Okay. All right.
You got it. So the tax levy, we're looking for the range of 2.67 to 2.87%, depending on what happens.
So that has to be submitted to the state by March 1st. Our numbers won't be final. We won't know everything on March 1st, so it's really difficult to do this, right? One of the other problems we're really having, and the tax cap is always moving and ebbing and flowing, and board minutes will show that over the years, but they also changed the game for BOCES aid and how it's calculated and whether it's going to be calculated as an exclusion on your tax cap or not. And the good news is, I say that sarcastically, is they haven't told us yet. So it's February 11th, it has to be submitted by March 1st, and they haven't told us the rules for our BOCES aid and whether it's an exclusion. And when you can exclude something from a calculation, it changes the calculation, right? So that's one of the reasons why we can come back to you and say, hold on, the rules just came in, now we're looking at this number, we need to really think about this. Because what we're proposing to you, with the rules staying as they are, is 2.67 to 2.87, is that what you
Yes,
said, Jen?
correct.
2.67 to 2.87. We feel historically that the board has felt that that's a number that our a community feels good with. We've always talked about trying to have it be more than 0 and usually less than 3. We average things out in the 7 years I've been here, and we really hover really below that number. But that number, that tax cap number, and Eric Bell used to say it great, that's the number the governor says you should go out at. He said that's a number that allows you to be somewhat sustainable. So some people go in under the number thinking they might be doing a favor, but there's never a mechanism to recoup that money. That money's always lost, and that actually compounds in the wrong direction. So right now it's 2.67 to 2.87, not to exceed 2.87. So Jen said we want to focus in on that. Is the board, this isn't a resolution, but she has to submit that. Does the board feel comfortable with that number? Do they want to talk about that number?
I will say that normally I've always felt comfortable with that recommendation. The only difficulty that the governor is not aware of is that in our community, as of recently, of last year, all the property taxes have gone up. So I anticipate to have significant amount of people at our doorstep talking about, yes, we haven't increased our percent over the last many years. We've been very consistent, very good about it, but to no fault of theirs, the town, the Beekmantown, and our real estate districts, property taxes have gone up quite a bit. The assessment have gone up quite a bit. So I'm okay with, me personally, with that, but I would suspect that we're going to get a lot of pushback from property owners.
And it's difficult. We have absolutely zero control over the assessment of people's homes.
And that's like 20-25%. That's a huge bite on houses.
The pilots the same entities agree to give the businesses tax breaks. You're seeing Plattsburgh's finally jumping on board to fight against pilots. There's headlines in the paper. That's money, that's a tax savings to business. What they don't talk about is how that actually increases everybody's tax rate.
Sure.
So, it is a tough decision. So we're looking at, take a look at the job that we're really telling you right now, based on the numbers as I stand right now, 41,000 isn't very much, and then 2.87% on half of our budget. So you're really looking at a 1% increase. And we know health insurance number, which is on this line I'm going to show you in just a minute, that number comes out on February 27th, I believe it is. The BOCES admin increase is going to be more, the BOCES admin increase alone will probably be almost all of the increase that we're talking about. So where does the rest of the money come?
Yeah, that's just insurance alone.
Not even just insurance alone, just BOCES increases alone. Forget insurance. Insurance alone would be $1 million. That's our best guess right now. Or $1.2 million right now. So we've heard from Ed. Where does the rest of the board feel on the tax cap of 267, 287? To go above those numbers would take two things: either put more cash down on debt service, or go for a super majority, which would be 60% of the voters saying approving going higher than our tax cap limit. And we know that generally less than 5 to 10% of the schools that try to exceed that tax cap are successful. We've never gone over that amount. Jen, you had some experience going over that amount. Most of the time that was voted down first, wasn't it?
No. Once it was voted down, the second time it was voted through, and then the following times they got it through. But it's not an easy task. I mean, that was a marketing
Monumental.
feat.
What are the consequences of going out for a supermajority budget vote and not achieving it?
You have to go out for a revote.
So it's not,
Or you take it at zero, yes.
okay.
That is
So you can take it at zero, but at zero, not contingency.
Correct.
Okay.
Zero levy limit. So you go with whatever you had last year would be what you have that year.
So we would lose opportunity of any.
Of any increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you go out to revote.
Go out to revote, and if they vote it down the second time,
Then you're
at
contingent.
zero.
Or
Okay.
Contingency in zero.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot of information.
Vote for say silence is acceptance.
Anybody else with thoughts?
I think the range is fair, below 3. I mean, we always shoot for that.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be afraid of, if this is what it takes to run a good institution and continue our positive growth at Beekmantown, we can't be afraid of saying this is what we need.
Well, so right now, based on these numbers, we're not saying that.
No, I know.
We're saying we're in the negative.
Exactly. I'm just saying that even if we're going to get some pushback, I think we have to be able to, as long as we upload the community and tell them this is what we need and this is why, is what it is.
What's the anticipated health insurance increase on February 27th? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, so originally the numbers were looking, when I say originally, so for a number of months, I'm going to say 6 months, 7 months, it was really tracking at about 12%. Oddly enough, when we started talking about changing carriers, our numbers softened up a little bit, and then our expenditures weren't as high. I would not be surprised if the numbers come in 9% increase. So that's, and for this easy this year, every 1% is basically $100,000 for us. Every district's different. It's just the number of people we have in health insurance and all the plans we have plans on, so it's exactly $100,000 10%. So we were budgeting for 12, and so if we were lucky, right here, 1.5 million increase. And if that goes down 3%, knocking 300,000 off that takes this red line being in the whole 900,000 down to being in the whole 600,000. Right? This is very possible. We'll know at the meeting.
Any of the other numbers subject to fluctuate, or?
Yeah. Some unfortunately might go up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What would those be as well? Here.
I mean, your ERS and TRS, so salary and retirement mandates, that number there. The retirement mandates are coming in a little bit lower than we had anticipated, not a lot.
So Jen got a range from them early on this year.
Yeah.
These are the range, here's the range, budget using this range, and I think it's smart budgeting. Jen says, okay, we're gonna take the high end of the range until we know otherwise. It looks like they're gonna come in lower than the high
TRS
end.
at least is gonna come in, it looks like a little bit lower than what I had budgeted, about 0.25%. And it's not huge, but it's better than going the other way.
That's not the increase, that's just the actual amount.
Right,
Okay.
right. I budgeted for 10.25%, and it looks like it's gonna come in about 9.5. It's not set in stone yet, but, and ERS, I haven't gotten, it's still a range, we haven't gotten anything at ERS. So, but again, on that side, I did budget for the high end of that range as well. So,
And that number, actually, when you add those two numbers together, that's gonna be a nice chunk of change. Well,
yeah, we should be looking at close to $100,000.
That's what I was
between the two.
10%. Yeah, 100,000 out of the million.
Now, if you had, if you
10%
took
of it.
100,000, or board, if you took $100,000 off this number, and you took, well, 300,000 off this number, we had 85,000 we talked about in there for programming changes, which we hadn't allocated yet because we don't want to build a plan for something that's, not possible. That becomes a zero. It's almost another $100,000 off that, so that takes that 900 to about 500,000. The BOCES admin increase, if you take a look over the last couple of years, we went to the average right in the middle, $100,000. And there's not going to be a big, so that's just the admin increase. There's other increases in BOCES that are not in the admin increase that we're going to, as I mentioned, that we're going to have to pay to participate, and which are significant for sure. And then we have one other good news this year, CV Tech.
Just a CV Tech. That's CVS and
Yeah, so just the CV Tech, actually, because of some of the programming we brought back years ago, and we've done a great job with it, every year since. So we have the agricultural classes, and I'm going to call them the technology tech classes. So we had fewer kids going to CV Tech, and they use a 5-year average of those students. So this year, actually, we have a $34,000 decrease in that line, but that doesn't include the special ed side of CVS. But we'll know those numbers come out, well, all those CVS numbers come out Friday, that budget meeting on Friday morning. So we'll know those too.
That was a little bit of an interesting double-edged sword, because it's often better for us to put our kids to do some of the stuff here, and it saves us money. And a lot of districts are doing that. But as the pool diminishes at CVS, then the dollar per student goes up because the overhead changes. So that means that some of our costs for some of the other coasters end up going up to compensate for some of that.
State Ed would say that would be illegal.
No, it's not about that. It's about overhead absorption, right? So
You should see it alone on their own merits, but that could happen. The big reason why we brought those classes here is we believed in them, and we also didn't. If it's something that we have a majority of our kids want to participate in, we had that mindset. The board had that mindset of well, why don't we offer it?
and we should, because there are things that we can offer here. I mean, we're not going to have, big bulldozers for kids to work on. That doesn't make sense. But for what we have here, it is better.
The only other line that could change, and it's a weird inverse relationship, I think, is if we didn't put as much money on the last line, the debt service line, the big 1.693, that could move our tax cap number lower, but that's not a strong economic move for our taxpayers, and here's the reason why. And it's counterintuitive. You're thinking a lower tax rate to our taxpayers would be a good thing. But we're paying off debt faster, and we're paying off interest faster. And we end up saving on that move to the taxpayers, we save $300,000 going to that.
of interest.
Because it's compounded, right? So.
Yeah. So it's a really good move for our taxpayers. And, I'd rather, that's just the way we've always looked at things in the 7 years here. There's two big items here that we just kind of need to finalize, and we want to hear, because it's hard if we hear it afterwards or in an email, the tax cap number in the not to exceed, not to exceed the 2.87 and not to exceed the $1.6 million for fund balance. So the not to exceed the 1.69 million for fund balance would be if the scenario that runs came out differently, the governor decides to package this differently, or the legislature says we're not doing it, we're going to vote no, and another run comes out and we end up positive 700,000. Right? They fully fund the foundation aid that they said in. We end up in the positive. That number, we would probably look at moving that 1.6 to 1.2 million. Okay? Move that number back to what we've been planning on that number being. Never seen a plan where we've had 1.6 up there, but that's the caution with the flow, and move that bottom line from 1.2 million to 918,000. That decision is only, you make that today based on the budget calendar that the board adopted. It's not to exceed, so there's a lot of flexibility in there to go below that number. Not to exceed 1.6 million, and to have the tax cap, somewhere in the vicinity of 2.67 or 2.87. I feel like an auctioneer here.
I think it's important that we do our very best not to exceed, to stay within our range, not to exceed the 2.87. And if using the 1.6 million is how we have to do it, then that's what we do.
Board member before, anything about?
I mean, I guess that we're looking at worst case scenario.
Yes.
This is the ugliest it should get.
Yeah. So this is.
That's what I want to know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. We don't foresee it.
We don't foresee it getting any worse than this.
It could, but we don't foresee.
I don't foresee that.
We foresee it becoming better.
Yes.
We hope.
We hope.
When I talk to Eddie Little's education person and other people within the government, they say that this is the way the governor's package is so messy.
And it will go back to the BOCES aid and all the individual aids and then our foundation aid. And we're hoping when they do split that out, our foundation aid will have more of an increase than $41,000.
Right.
But like I said, as of today, these are the numbers we have, and we would hope that that would be the worst case scenario. So that's what we're presenting just in case.
We didn't want to hope things get better and then come back a month and have you guys want to tell us.
And just, we do have some new board members, so I think it's important to know that this is still a work of, it's still fluid. This is not, what we're saying today is not concrete. Like they said, it could get better. We hope it gets better. We want it to get better. So it's just, right now, they're just looking for an opinion.
And the way the budget works is kind of backwards, is we have to submit this tax cap as of March 1st, but we don't even have the state's numbers until April 1st. So we're always working backwards.
Every year, yeah.
So unfortunately, the hands are out.
I feel that you and Jen have worked the numbers, and if you're comfortable with them, then I certainly am.
We're not overly comfortable.
Yeah.
It's the best we have right now, right?
Yeah.
That's what we work hard to do. I know, Mike, I don't want to justify because you just came in here. We're looking at a 1.6 allocation for fund balance and a tax cap number between 267 and 287.
I know the fund balance, use of fund balance is pretty standard.
It's just a little bit more than standard. It's a little, there's a bump. It's also not to exceed that amount. So we can go back to what was standard.
Yeah.
With the idea.
It's usually around 1.2.
You got it. That's right. Yeah.
So I remember that, but
Does this give us reserves?
No, but we don't use our reserves, but it doesn't give us reserves.
We're not touching our reserves.
That's what I mean.
We're not doing any increases.
We
For
can't.
example, remember the year that behind Sam's, when that development
Ampersand?
came in?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And one person in the family had to be disabled.
Yeah.
So we were looking at if there were 10 disabled
Right, because you had
students in
to,
this district, what would we do?
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have.
Yeah, we right there, Colin, we put this line in right here, adversity, enrollment issues. And right now that's flat, but that's right, that's why we put that in.
Yeah, but I mean, we, have a little extra in case we need it, what I mean? Or something like that.
We would love to have that if the future budget runs from the governor allow.
Do we need to call Billy's office or Betty, or you feel like these numbers won't stand, like you said?
They definitely understand it. I don't think it can hurt to send them an email, and they know, and the more people knocking on their door, the more it resonates. Some of them have seen other runs that aren't published. Maybe what they're working toward. So, Mr. Dean?
I'm comfortable with it, with what you have right now.
Okay, so the last couple of documents, Jen's going to walk through one more on revenue for you, and I'm not going to walk, and then I'll be back when I see, but this is enrollment, the source of enrollment.
Yeah, the revenues is fairly straightforward. Really, they're the numbers we've taken from the governor's proposal and put them in a little snapshot so you can see. So the real property tax, the $21,842,000 is what we've come up with the 2.67% tax cap. So that may fluctuate depending on where we end up, but that's the number we're at right now. The state aid, you can see the breakout of that $22 million down below. And you can see the state aid at the $20,866,000. That's our big decrease. But a lot of that is due to the capital aid. And again, we didn't change the appropriated reserves. We left that at 150, but the fund balance is at 1.6 versus the 1.3. That brings us to 46, which is almost identical to what we had budgeted for last year. Well, obviously our costs went up. I mean, we did lose a bond, so the bond fell off. The bond fell off, which is about $1.5 million. But we know our health insurance increase is right around 1.2 at this point, or $1 million. So that eats up that increase, or that offset fairly quickly. And it doesn't even include the salary note. So below, the breakout pilots, interest, I mean, those are all numbers that very little has changed. We didn't do a lot to change them except for the New York State SED pre-K free collaboration. You see it went up to $600,000. That's what we're talking about, the number with Polly and her pre-K kids. That we're still a little unsure of, but we're getting more sure of the revenue source that's coming in. So that's why there was the big increase there. As we become more familiar with the numbers, we may be able to change that. But as of right now, that's what we feel comfortable with. And as you can see, the very bottom section, the state aid details, you can see the drastic change in how he handled the aid. So it went from all these detailed breakdowns, BOCES breakdown, the private costs, the hardware, the software. He rolled all of that into one, the $16.6 million. So that means we would have no more BOCES. He just rolled it into the financial. This is a totally different spin on things that he threw at us. So everybody's kind of reeling over that one. But, so that's the hand we were dealt at this moment. So that's the way I put it into 2021 with just foundation aid and no other aid affiliated with it that have been there previously.
Have we included anything for ransomware, cyber insurance that will be coming down the line?
We have cyber insurance through NYSER at this
Right,
time.
okay. But any increases for continued audits and all that, you saw that might be coming down?
So we have a safety and security line, which we've used for some of that. And then, as the board knows, we've worked really hard with Rick Gangware and Mr. Lambert, Director Lambert, to secure our systems, there will be, it's a smaller line buried into a NARIC line, which is in the more detailed budget. I don't see it anywhere here today. There will be an increase in a shared data privacy officer, which is about, Gary's not here right now.
Yeah, that's the requirement.
Yeah, it's a requirement. So that's about $20,000 to $30,000, which we should theoretically receive BOCES 8 on, unless BOCES 8 goes away.
Unless BOCES 8 goes away.
Thanks.
But we've done a lot of work to have a very, very secure environment, which is really to Rick Engler's credit, and the board's credit for having that audit, give Rick a roadmap. Any other questions on the revenues? Paints about half of the picture. The other thing, and it was a piece of the conversation, Ed asked about enrollment. If you take a look at our, this is an enrollment chart that Joanne keeps up, does a great job. I use this when people come tell me that what are they going to do about the 175 kids in this grade level? I'm like, we don't have a grade level of 175. We know the numbers. But if you take a look all the way over, third column from the right, so all the way over to the right side of the margin, you have the number of students here, and there's it's a nice increase. Are those 4,000? Those 4,000.
That's not right.
So there's a few numbers that are new and wrong on here. We don't know what happened, but these numbers, these last from 2012-13, these numbers are right, and we are growing. That includes the pre-K students. So those pre-K students aren't in on every state aid calculation. So sometimes you'll see numbers like 19. One number I just recently saw from the state is that we had 1,999 students. I don't know where they had that number. But as you see, so the one thing with the class loads, if you take a look, a few years ago we had a lot of 140s, 130s, and 120s, and now we have a lot of 150s. Everything's hovering right around 150, with the exception of those in the high school next year should be smaller, where some of that cohort of the 120s and 130s we're moving through, and not the 150s, 160s, and even 180s or 200s that we had before. So we have a little bit smaller cohort in the high school, but pretty balanced throughout. So it's just important to know where, if we have bubbles or where we have dips, so that we can assign the appropriate human resources. Any questions on Bed's Day enrollment? All right, thank you. So property tax cap base, we talked about budget development progress. You have fund balance guidelines not to exceed 1.6 million and our enrollment information. We're done.
All right. Do you have any additional reports for us, Mr. Mayor?
I do. I just wanted to report to the board that there is a unique agenda item on here today, and it is for community relations. And my good friend and colleague, Mr. Apel Scott, shared with me a resolution that he had seen before, maybe even utilized in previous service. And that resolution would allow us, if we were ever to have an open house and showcase our facilities, to actually expend some dollars, like $100 or $400 or whatever it is. We certainly would keep it, really small and tight. We are going to ask. We are going to try to have an open house. Or we are going to have an open house, and we're going to ask for donations, maybe from some of the people that profited off our building our facilities. But we can envision tours of the fields, of the rooms, of the improvements, and maybe some fun and games for kids and cookout with hot dogs and whatever. Just a nice day to showcase the facilities. This allows us to spend a little bit of money. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do that. I think that's it.
All right. Ms. Parliament, do you have anything else you'd like to report? All right. Moving on to ex officio student board member Grant Decker. I want to remind everyone that you notice our microphones are not here, so we're working off 2 recorders, 1 and 2. So if you could kindly speak up, we'd appreciate it. We want to make sure everything makes the recording.
So starting with Cumberland Head, students at Cumberland Head are getting ready to celebrate the 100th day of school and Valentine's Day, and the school fact committee is planning a winter fun day where students can travel from station to station and complete fun challenges. Teachers in grades kindergarten through 5 met with CBS school improvement specialists having follow-up in the level meetings. Teachers reported the progress of the ELA instructional goals and set new goals for the upcoming months. Teachers' goals were based on student data, including DIBES and performance on classroom assessments. Beekmantown Elementary and Cumberland Head teachers are working together to adopt a new English language arts curriculum. The first meeting will be this Thursday, and the committee will meet several times and examine materials from different publishers, and then present recommendations to superintendent medics by May 1st. Moving on to Beekmantown Elementary. The 4th grade students enjoyed a field trip to Titus Mountain. Special thanks goes to Liz Donahue, a teacher at Beekmantown Elementary, for helping to coordinate, pick up, and return helmets to Wet-Based Mountain so students could be safe on the mountain at Titus. 2nd graders recently went to the Lake Classic Center for the Arts to watch an interactive dinosaur presentation, followed by a visit to the Adirondack Carousel at Saranac Lake. This week, Beekmantown Elementary is celebrating Winter Waco presentations in karate, Zumba, and healthy bike nutrition, and they'll also have a magic show. The newly finished front entrance is up and operational. The lobby was open to visitors on February 3rd, and it has been well received, and students are also enjoying it. Moving on to the middle school. The middle school robotics teams participated in the first LEGO League tournament at Clarkson University on February 1st. The next grade level team, the Park Perfectionists, won the Inspiration Award. 13 middle school students participated in the All-County Music Festival on February 8th. Susan Historiak, the middle school band director, served as the festival chair. The second quarter Eagle Pride Assembly will be held on February 13th, and Holocaust survivor Vladimir Monk is tentatively scheduled to speak to 7th and 8th graders on February 27th. And a lot for the high school. The high school had its January readings week, and the assessments were a great success. Students and teachers worked extremely hard, and their dedication showed, with students performing at a 93% proficiency rate on all of the regions' assessments combined. And the majority of students made progress towards mandated graduation regions assessments requirements. The first semester ended on Friday, January 24th. 334 students obtained honorable, with 82 students obtaining high honorable with distinction, which is 95 and above. Molly UN students participated at the Harvard Molly UN in Boston, Massachusetts for the week of January 27th. It was an experience for students to take on leadership roles, both public speaking confidence, all while building capacity on worldwide issues. Special congratulations to Abby Scott and Sarah McGee, who has dual delegation received an honorable mention award in the first year, and Heather Danville for receiving a diplomatic commendation to finish your year with the team. Beekmantown Molly UN will be hosting several schools on Wednesday, February 12th, tomorrow. And this will be a great experience for students also to, again, build capacity around public speaking, in collaboration and understanding processes of the world. They'll also be interacting with other school districts in the area. The high school had an underclassmen parent college presentation night on Monday, February 3rd for all parents and guardians and students to learn more about the college search and the application process. Ms. Jessica Spurtis, the freshman admissions advisor, Cindy Foxford, and Stacy Maggie, high school counselor, both presented to the Beekmantown community, and many families took advantage of the information provided. Beekmantown hosted the All-County Band Jazz Ensemble on Friday, February 7th, and Saturday, January 8th. 6 Beekmantown high school students participated and represented the district really well. The high school, starting on Saturday, March 7th, weekend, we'll be starting SAT review courses for students who are either taking the May 2nd, June 9th exams, or just want overall preparation for the college exam itself. And the sessions will be every Saturday leading up to the exam, and then alternate between math and English lessons.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Moving on to, I think it's me. Audit committee met on January 23rd. Audit committee reviewed and discussed the November and December 2019 financial reports. Treasurer Stahl gave a brief overview of financial reports and gave an update on the food service program. Our total breakfast, lunch, and snacks served through December 2019 were respectively 90,753, 100,790, and 118,399. As a result, there were no changes from the prior year. Although there was no increases in our meals, our average daily participation increased for both breakfast and lunch. Our breakfast was 64.37% and our lunch was 71.55%. We also had discussion on the 2020 cafeteria equipment grant. BOCES supported to strengthen our participation in various cafeteria programs and monthly RTI training for teachers. Both Mr. Marin and Mrs. Buckley asked multiple questions about various aspects of financial reports throughout the financial overview, including construction management contracts, bus arm camera purchases and installation, safety equipment is used on student transportation vans, MWBE requirements for grants and other consequences of not meeting those requirements, and the pre-K grants and budgets. We'll be meeting again on February 13th, and that was our audit committee. All right. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
All right, thank you, Mark. Second, Pauline. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the CPSE, CSE, and 504 recommendations dated 2/11/2020. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion, Mark. Second? Nicole? Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Noes, abstains, resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolution on this consent agenda, resignations, appointments, and retirements, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Mike? Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Noes, abstains, resolution passes. On to page 7 of 11. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the election services agreement between Clinton County and the Beekmantown Central School District Board of Education concerning the Beekmantown Central School District's elections to be held on May 19th, 2020, and authorize the superintendent of schools to sign the said agreement. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Pauline. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. Whereas District Policy 1000 establishes various goals for community relations, and whereas the school district is soon to reach substantial completion of voter-approved capital project work that incorporates several new and substantially renovated program spaces, and whereas those community... Thank you.
Move the motion as written, but you might want to give a little explanation.
He just did. That was part of his reports.
Oh, okay.
That was the
Open house.
the open house and allowing a small budget to be used to support the open house.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that that's what this is.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add to that? Okay. May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Thank you, Mike. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes. May it be resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda, financial reports and transfers, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Pauline. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion? This is a roll call vote, please.
Douglas Beatty?
Yes.
Kathy Buckley?
Yes.
Michael Hagedorn?
Yes.
Ed Marin?
Yes.
Christopher Michaud?
Yes.
Crystal Palmer? Nicole Pupor?
Yes.
Mark Stan?
Yes.
Pauline Stone?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Next is additional items to discuss. On May 7th, we have our annual Clinton, the 21st Clinton County Annual School Board Recognition Dinner. Most people know it as the Top 10% Dinner. We definitely need, I definitely will attend. Ed's attending. If you would like to attend, you need to tell Joanne. Joanne, do we have a cutoff date for that? It's getting a little bit more difficult. We're having harder time coordinating everyone. So if you plan on attending, please email Joanne directly or email me or call me and I will forward that to her. To just hit yes at the bottom of the invitation does not always let us know that you're intending on going. It kind of gets lost. So if you would be kind enough to be more obvious about your response, that'd be great.
I responded yes, but I'll send it again.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have an established time for our AM meeting for CVS board member and voting?
Yeah, we were originally going to try to have 2 meetings at once, but we can't because of a meeting in Albany.
Okay.
So that meeting we've usually had around 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning, yeah.
7:30. We just need a quorum. You'll have all the information, ahead of time. That all that information comes out on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a quick meeting.
It's usually 10 to 15 minutes, and everybody's done. Yeah,
usually
donuts and coffee.
Robbery.
If we're lucky. So, if everyone could look at their calendars at this time to see if we have April 23rd open, I would appreciate that. Do you have any power left in your phone?
And if we don't, I think it's happened at a few schools. I don't know if it's happened at Beekmantown.
That's fine.
You just don't have a vote. You don't contribute.
Ed, you're up. Your seat is up, so we
Yeah.
really need to vote.
Okay.
Does he run again? Or is that, you're going to,
You guys, if you want to, you can nominate me. And
are you
then,
willing to serve again?
yeah, sure.
I nominate you.
Thanks. I may be, government might be pulling me
Okay.
that day. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Okay. Is there anyone else that can guarantee that they'll be there?
I'll be there.
You'll be there. I got you down.
I'll be there.
Okay.
So at the next meeting, we will have formal nominations for that.
Okay, excellent. As of right now, we have Mark Sand, Kathy Buckley, Pauline Stone, and Mike Hagedorn.
5.
And Nicole believes that she will be able to make it, and Nicole Pupor. So we can have our meeting. All right.
Are you looking for anyone else? The morning of the 25th?
It would be nice if you could attend, but as long as we have a quorum, we can have the meeting.
And what time?
It would be at 7:30 a.m.
That's here.
No.
Usually we do it in the district office because it's so fast.
All right.
All right. So we do have a quorum for April 23rd, 2020, for the election of CVES board members and voting on the CVES school budget or administrative budget. It's a 7:30 a.m. meeting. And all right, you get the next one.
The next one was just, we had discussed trying to have our board meeting on that Thursday, but now we can't. I'm not available that night because of something in Albany with the State Education Department, the Commissioners Council. So we're just having it Tuesday like it was originally scheduled.
Okay.
The other question that's not on here, and I heard somebody ask it, is do we want to, I'm probably jinxing the room right now as we speak, but there's a thought process that maybe, just maybe, that the room will be completed March for our next board meeting with the Learning Theater. It's a really nice room. Have it there. Easy access for public.
That would be nice.
Good. All right.
All right, that would be exciting. Is there anything else that we'd like to add to additional items to discuss? All right, seeing that there is none. We have set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If you would like to approach the board at this time, I would ask that you please step forward, say your name, and address the board. All right. Seeing we have no one at this time, may it be resolved that the Board of Education appoint someone to be clerk pro tem. Ed Marin to be clerk pro tem for this meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes. May it be resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person and or persons, proposed pending or current litigation, and collective negotiations pursuant of Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. Also, I'd like to let everyone know that Megan Zedek will be joining us in our executive session. And will there be any decisions after that?
So there'll
Do I have more?
no decisions after that, and we will also be inviting in Mr. A. Paul Scott and Jen Parliament for one or two of the items for discussion.
All right. All right. We will take a 5-minute recess, and then we will go into executive session. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do that. Thank you, Joanne. May I have a motion, please? All right. Thank you, Chris. May I have a second? Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Noes, abstains, resolution passes.